Penn State football gets a quarterback in the class of 2027. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Sean Fitz, you've been saying this for a couple of weeks. It's going to be done sooner rather than later. And so here we are in the sooner rather than later. And so I wanted to throw this over to you just to start. By the way, like the video, subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel if you like that Penn State got a quarterback. If you're upset they didn't get the quarterback you wanted, like the video and then hype the video here on the YouTube channel. Appreciate you being here and enjoying the process with us, even if you are in the comments saying, look, another 3-star. All that said, like I think we've done the preamble. We know where this is going, so make it official for us. Which quarterback did Penn State grab in the class of 2027?
Yeah, Penn State's quarterback recruiting in 2027, like the scene in Spaceballs. When will then be now? Soon, and soon, and soon. And now it's here. Penn State does have a quarterback in the class of 2027, and it's Will Wood. It's not the guy that you thought you were tracking since he was a freshman and sophomore in high school in Peter Bourque. It's Will Wood, another Massachusetts quarterback from Natick, plays at Xavier and Brothers, home of Penn State long snapper Andrew Dufault. So there's obviously your obvious connection there. So, but Penn State has been trending for Will Wood for a little bit. It's been one of those fun recruitments to follow. Fun in the sense of there's a lot of things that we perceive to be going on, but like Penn State had some decisions to make, and Will Wood is a guy that they pushed for over the last couple of weeks. Offered him when he was on campus in late April, and sort of since then we've been running these two lines. Is it going to be Bourque? Is it going to be Wood? Is it going to be neither? But Penn State got their guy. It's Will Wood. They seem pretty happy with the developments here in the last couple of weeks, and Wood is firmly their number one guy right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to push you on that a little bit and ask you the question that everyone is asking. Did Penn State miss on Peter Bourque? Is this a choice or is this a consolation prize? I have my thoughts on him as a quarterback. I don't think that this is a consolation prize in terms of like, this is a good quarterback, but everyone's going to see the top 100 prospect or the top 10 quarterback, and they're going to ask those things. So it's, as much as this is about Will Wood, it's hard to dissect and pull these things apart when there's been so much talk about both of them together. So if you wouldn't mind taking us through kind of the decision-making process as you understand it with the quarterback board this year.
Well, as we were recording, Peter Bourque still in the market, has a decision set for May 14th. I think Penn State kind of showed its hand here in that they went to see Will Wood throw before his unofficial visit a few weeks ago, before they offered him a few weeks ago. And then they went on Friday, May 8th to see him, to kind of throw the full court press at him. So we went from right of first refusal to Peter Bourque, and that kind of played itself out for a week or so. And then I think the floodgates open. They said, hey, go get Will Wood. This is, we're not waiting around anymore. And the Bourque recruitment has been interesting because there are, at least the time that we're recording this, 3 schools that are still prominently in the mix, but like he doesn't want to name favorites. So I think he's still open to any offers that could come through. So I think that they're trying to maximize their ability. No judgment there on my behalf, because that's kind of what you're doing right now. But at the same time, Penn State seemed a little bit more decisive on their end and decided they didn't want to wait around to sort of be left at the altar and potentially lose both of them. So I think they liked Will Wood enough to make this happen. And, I've made this comparison before. Penn State, years ago, had Hunter Johnson as their number one guy. He was visiting other schools, and they decided that, hey, Sean Clifford in our top 3, top 4 wants to commit to Penn State, so you take him, bird in hand and such. So I think that's the situation that you found here. I always thought that Bourque would end up at Penn State, and just reading the tea leaves of the last couple of weeks and months, more so weeks than months. But like Penn State's his leader, Penn State's his leader, Penn State's his leader, but okay, he's not ready to jump on board. So that to me says, is he looking for something else? Is he looking for something more? After the Will Menzel commitment to Oregon, there was, talk about him wanting a similar compensation package that Will Menzel got, which I don't think was going to happen because it's Oregon, and Oregon's
right.
a different bankroll than everyone else. So that's where I would go with that. So is it a miss? Yeah, I think there's some degree of that because you didn't get them over the line over the last 6 weeks or so. But at the same time, I think this was a cognizant decision by Penn State. And we talked about cost benefit analysis. We talked about how much you could get from Peter Bourque in year 1 and year 2 versus what you're paying him. And then what you're going to get from Will Wood in year 1 and year 2 versus what you're paying him. And it's a substantial amount. Like that's stuff that you got to, if you're Derek Hoosier, the GM of Penn State, that's stuff that you have to factor in here. And I don't think they found the gap between the two players was as large as the gap between the two compensation packages.
Yeah, and to say like that is to say they really like Will Wood as a football player, and there are qualities there that I think Peter Bourque doesn't have. From we'll get into that in just a moment, but let's back up for just a second and put all that aside. Let's talk about Will Wood and his journey to Penn State. You mentioned kind of the events that led there, so can you just kind of recap this again and reset us as far as like the introduction of Will Wood and how this one, another one we talked a lot about these where it feels like these are some pretty quick commitments. And it feels like now that once the staff has gotten the lay of the land here on the East Coast and the New England area and in the general Penn State footprint, they've identified guys they like and that they have made some of these recruitments that feel pretty quick, at least from what we're used to in the timeline of Penn State football recruiting. So can you just take us through kind of the Will Wood story again?
Yeah, I want to real quick just sort of lay this out there that as of the time that we're recording this, Bourque still has the opportunity to join Penn State. Like this is not a situation where they dumped him or anything like that, but this is we're recording in advance, so we're ready for this. Bourque still has an opportunity to commit to Penn State as of now. Now, if you're watching this, that means that Wood committed, and I don't see a two quarterback class that would feature Bourque and Wood. It just it doesn't make sense to me. But I just wanted to make that clear that Penn State still is keeping the door open as we record this. We're not recording a Bourque video because he's got a decision to make on the 14th or whatever it is. But I feel like that's important information. Now, with Will Wood, I was curious myself. I went back and looked. Steve Wiltfong wrote on February 17th that Penn State was starting to ramp up its interest in Will Wood. And I think that was received as oh, well, where's Bourque going? You know, how is this bad, like that? And I think I feel like that's been the mentality for a lot of fans at this point. Like, why is this going to happen? Why are they pivoting now? They really like Will Wood as a quarterback. Like, and I think if you look at what they are as a staff or what reputation they have as a staff, Will Wood makes a lot of sense in the sense that this guy is perhaps under recruited, if you will, still a really good offer list of, Power 4 schools all over the country. But a little bit undersized, gritty. We're going to throw all the cliches out here when we look at Will Wood. But I think it kind of fits into the way that they've evaluated and the way that they feel like they can generate winning football with not with anybody, but with players like Will Wood, who's a talented guy. I've seen him a couple of times live. I saw him at the Elite 11 last year in State College, and then I saw him a couple of weeks later at Under Armour in New Jersey. And I said this before we went on, T. Frank, but when you watch these guys at camp, when you're standing there behind the line, you see these guys throw. Once in a while, you'll look at that roster and you'll find a number of a guy that you maybe don't know or you don't recognize right off the top. And you'll look down for that roster and see who's that number guy. And to me, last spring, that was Will Wood a couple of times. Like, this is like, oh, I keep going back to this name. It means he can throw the football, or at least it means he impressed me throwing the football. I'm not gonna pretend to be a quarterback's coach here, but this is a guy that really, really has a lot of the tools, even if he doesn't have all the physical prowess to back it up. I mean, you put him beside Peter Bourque, you're going to pick Peter Bourque, but you play him beside each other, and I'm not sure that that's as clear cut of a choice. And we love Peter Bourque. I think we think he's a really good quarterback. So I mean, you're looking at 6'1.5". 220 some, but he's a bit thicker. Like you look at him and he's a little bit smaller, but he's a bit thicker. Plays like oh gosh, I hate to do this, but that's where it's going anyway. But plays like Trace McSorley. He runs around, plays some schoolyard, throws the ball well on the run, and delivers it with power when he needs to. I don't think he's got an overwhelming arm, but I think he's got a really good arm. So a lot of the things that they're looking for, a lot of things that they've said they're looking for in a quarterback, I think Will Wood has. And I think they're excited to get a competitor, get a leader, get a guy that kind of reflects what their reputation is as a coaching staff.
Yeah. We'll get into we'll show you some of the highlights. I'll talk about what I've seen on the full film and give you kind of a broader sense of what Will Wood, the quarterback mind, can do, because I think that is a huge part of this conversation. We talk about like positional skills with offensive linemen or receivers, and it's like it is a little bit of a secondary thing because what you're looking for is like the blueprint of the athlete and then just some cognitive understanding of the game of football. But for a quarterback, there has to be some earmarkers of what mental abilities they have. That's very important. It is very important at every position. You don't want to bring in a bunch of guys that you don't feel like can get it. But at quarterback, it's very, very specific. We'll get into that in just one second. First, though, we got to hear from AJ Freedom Financial. Penn State fans know that confidence comes with having the right game plan. And when retirement is getting closer, many people have the same questions. Will my money last? Am I prepared for market volatility? Do I have a real plan for retirement and income taxes? At AJ Freedom Financial, we help pre-retirees and retirees build personalized retirement plans designed around their goals, timelines, and comfort with risk. From retirement incomes and tax-aware planning to legacy and investment strategies, we focus on helping clients move forward with greater clarity and confidence. If you'd like a second opinion on your current financial plan, or want to build a retirement strategy you can feel better about, we invite you to schedule a no-obligation meeting in Plymouth Meeting or one of our locations near you. Visit AJ Freedom Financial at www.ajffi.com or call 866-383-6899 today. That's AJ Freedom Financial at ajffi.com. AJ Freedom Financial, helping Nittany Lions fans plan for what's next.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Gradient Securities, LLC. Arden Hills, Minnesota, 866-991-1539. Member FINRA, SIPC. Gradient Securities, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor offers investment advisory services under the DBA of Gradient Wealth Management. Gradient Securities, LLC, and its advisors do not render tax, legal, or accounting services. Insurance products and services offered through AJ Freedom Financial. AJ Freedom Financial and Freedom Financial Insurance, LLC are not affiliated with Gradient Securities, LLC.
So let's dive into Will Wood's highlight film. Here's the problem: is there's so many different buckets of what to talk about with Will Wood, and that's the exciting part. So the first thing is he runs a pro-style offense. So he's been under center and had a drop-back passing game where he's doing 3- and 5-step drops. He is a good processor of coverages. You can see him read coverages pretty well. Now, coverages on the high school level are pretty basic. So if you see 4 guys in the secondary, probably cover 4. If you see 3, probably cover 3. And he does a good job of doing that. Fitz mentioned he's really good on the run. And just jump in here, Fitz, because I think you made a great point about his hips.
Yeah, his hips are always pointing in the right direction, and that's a physical trait that not a lot of quarterbacks, especially when they're, for lack of a better term, schoolyard ballers, don't always have on the agenda there. So he's always not completely square, but he generates power in the right direction, and that's why he's so good on the run. He can find it, and he can be accurate too. So I think that when you take a look at his movement in the pocket, he finds himself square, and that's not something you see from a ton of high school quarterbacks. So I really like what he's able to do there. And if he's going to lean into the playmaker type guy, that's a good start. And I think a lot of these guys, he works at M2 Quarterback Academy in Massachusetts. They are the guys that Penn State is looking at right now, because you got Bourque there, Chris Vargas in the next class. So it's a pretty popular spot to be. Not dissimilar to what we saw from Brad Mandler in the last couple of years with Drew Aller, with Ethan Grunkmeyer. I think you're just moving over to a new area for quarterbacks right now, and they're doing a great job in the Northeast. But all those guys have sound fundamentals. What I like about Will Wood, his fundamentals show up on tape. Like his fundamentals show up on Friday nights where they got that giant X in the middle of the field. If you're watching on YouTube, the biggest midfield logo I think I've ever seen. But these things show up on tape. He gets those hips square. He gets his shoulders behind the ball, and he's a really good job of delivering. I hate to say off platform, because we've kind of marginalized that term over the last couple of years, but he does a really great job of.
Well, it's intentional. So that's the thing, is like when he's throwing the ball and all these things are intentional. A lot of guys throw off platform, but they're throwing off platform because they're not reading the coverage, or they're doing things that are incorrect in the pocket, right? So their pocket movement is poor because they're skittish against the against pressure. He gets a lot of pressure. So like his team dominates in his level of competition, but he still faces a lot of pressure, and his movement in the pocket is necessary. So as you see, he gets pressure, keeps his eyes down the field, knows where everyone is on the field, and I like all of those things when it comes to his ability to deliver accurate footballs. There's a difference between footwork and lower body mechanics sometimes. Like your feet are part of your lower body mechanics, but what Fitz is talking about is the hip drive, the snap of the hip through the foot, through the throwing motion. All those things are super consistent. Reminds me, as you mentioned, of Ethan Grunkmeyer, and even a little bit of Jackson Smolik in his ability to, I think, throw harder than people expected. Maybe if you don't have the strongest arm in the world, which you mentioned, like does not have the strongest arm in the world, but has great downfield touch. He's very accurate. And, I think the mental part of the game is really interesting, because watching a lot of high school quarterbacks that are D1 prospects, right? So the offense is built around them, and they are throwing 70% of the time. So there's a lot of opportunity to throw a bunch of like pointless passes for you to watch if you're evaluating, right? So just screens, a bunch of RPOs and things that are just basically run plays, but the quarterback is delivering the football. He's in a run first offense. So this is a pro style offense. It gives them the opportunity to be efficient with the football and to make these high leverage passes routinely. So there's more meat on the bone, I guess, in this offense of watching important throws that he needs to be able to make at the next level. And he makes that's the diet of what he's doing a lot of the time, is a lot of play actions on bootlegs, a lot of vertical passing attacks. Sounds a lot like the Penn State offense. And the interesting thing is, and this is the part of, like, you mentioned the movement and the playmaking with his arm, which is most important here. But there are also elements of spread football here where they'll go 5 wide, and they'll also do option football, like read option, defensive ends off the line of scrimmage. They even have triple option packages to leverage his running ability. So this is a really diverse offense, and he makes the correct decision in each one of these very different scenarios where you go, okay, I know this kid has a high football IQ, and his ability to execute on the field under pressure has been stress tested. Like his play in the playoffs in Massachusetts, again, it's not Texas football, but it is. Like, he's absolutely steamrolling teams in the playoffs, and he's doing it with a bunch of different things. So what I see is the ultimate college quarterback. You can put him in any system, in any scheme, and he's going to be able to run it. The questions and the things that we brought up on the first half of the video. Not an elite arm, good arm, not an elite arm, not huge. I would say as a playmaker, like as a runner, he is a good runner. Natural running skills would be probably, and again, I apologize going back to the whole Bourque comparison thing, he's a more natural runner than Bourque. I think roughly maybe a better athlete overall. As you mentioned, he's a little stockier, a little more natural ability to lower his shoulder, but from a speed, explosiveness, all of those metrics, you're not building a run game around him, but he can operate a quarterback run game. So he gives you every option as an offensive coordinator. And I think that's valuable on the next level. And what he lacks is the NFL obvious upside. So if you're talking about the talent perspective, those are the things. Not as big, not as strong of an arm. The one thing that does concern me, though, and this is something I probably should have brought up a little bit earlier, but this is something that you can fix, but it's very hard to do. He has a long windup. So it's a bit of a whippy windup where there's a lot of wasted motion. Overall, like, he gets the ball out moderately efficiently. But if you're going to be lacking arm strength, and I mean like on the high end, and you're going to have a longer release, that is a concern. And so to me, that's the biggest thing. Because if that wasn't there, I'd say I have there's nothing on film that makes me like think that Peter, they made the right choice, that this is a great quarterback. So that has to be fixed. And if they fix that, there is the opportunity for arm strength to improve with the efficiency of getting all of that momentum, all of that, all the physics of your body, and translating it through the arm like a sling, right? So if you improve and you have, it's called like power leaks in your throwing motion, if they improve those, then I think his arm strength can get incrementally better. And so as far as a prospect, there's a ton to like here, and it's a lot under the hood, as opposed to any idiot can see who's bigger, faster, stronger, throws the ball harder. And so again, I don't mean to keep doing this, but like, he's a really good quarterback, but the comparables, right? The things you're going to rank a guy on from star rating or whatever, they are not in spades in his film eval.
Yeah, let's just call it like it is. He's built to be a college quarterback. He's not necessarily built to be a first-round draft pick, and that's fine. Like, you want a guy that's going to win games, and I think that's what kind of Matt Campbell and staff have leaned to. You see a similar guy like that in Brody Brenneman down in Florida, who they've checked out as well. But 2,828 yards, 42 touchdowns, 1 interception in 2025 back in the fall. They won their 3rd straight MIAA Division I Super Bowl in December. He was 11 of 16 for 345 yards and 5 touchdowns, 11 completions for 345 yards.
Yes, that's what I'm saying about this offense. Yeah, that's exactly right.
For a run first offense, there was quite a bit of meat on the bone there for passing as well. I think his opposition kind of planned for the run, and he found the right spot. So yeah, I think that's what I just keep going back to. I mean, you've got a lot to like in Peter Bourque in terms of being a long-term prospect, and being a guy that probably could play early as well. He's a little bit older, but Will Wood gives you the college quarterback outlook there, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that in terms of trying to stabilize this position. Penn State's room still has plenty of question marks moving forward. Rocco Beck's not going to be back next year. Connor Berry shouldn't be back next year unless there's a weird situation in which he would, just use his 4-game red shirt as the backup. But Alex Mansky still got questions. Peyton Falzone still got questions. Case Evans in there as well. So there's a lot of opportunity there in this quarterback room, but also the other end of that sword, especially in the college game these days, is Penn State going to go try and get a starter from the transfer portal next offseason. Yeah. So that plays into your quarterback decision making, whether you take 2, whether you go big on a high school guy in the class of 2027. So I think all of those pieces that are moving pieces and open for interpretation to whoever you ask in the building makes a big difference when you're making a decision like pressing full force on Will Wood.
Yep, and we'll see how this plays out together. This is just the first step. A little bit longer of a video here, but of course, quarterbacks are always, we're going to talk more about quarterbacks when one commits. So thank you for being with us here on the Will Wood commitment video. Like the video, subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, and next time news breaks, we'll be here to give you the next commitment as Penn State is building its very large, very substantial, and impactful class of 2027. For Sean Fitz, I'm Thomas Frank Carr. We'll be back next time news breaks from Penn State football here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel.